In a quiet town not far away, Carla Rivers sat in her small kitchen, drinking cold coffee. Her eyes were tired, her hands shaking slightly as she reached for the TV remote. It had been another sleepless night. 3 years. 3 long years since her son Jacob had disappeared from the park while playing on the swings. 3 years since she screamed his name in the dark, begged strangers to help, and cried in police stations. She had searched everywhere, posted flyers, called news stations, knocked on every door in the area. Everyone said the same thing. Maybe he ran off. Maybe he drowned. Maybe you should move on. But Carla never believed that. She knew in her heart Jacob was still alive. That morning, as she flipped through channels, something made her stop. A local news update. A woman had been stopped for speeding. In the back seat was a scared little boy. The police said the boy told them, "She's not my real mom." The screen showed the woman's face. Blonde hair, nice clothes, big smile. Then they showed the boy. Carla's heart nearly stopped. The eyes. Those big brown eyes. She dropped the coffee mug. Glass shattered on the floor, but she didn't even look down. She grabbed her phone and zoomed in on the screen. She stared at the boy's face. His name on the report was Eli. But she whispered out loud, "Jacob, baby, that's you." Carla rushed to her bedroom and pulled out an old photo album. Pictures of Jacob when he was 3. Same nose, same ears, same little scar under his chin from when he fell off his bike. Tears filled her eyes. She wasn't crazy. She had been right all along. He was alive. And now he needed her more than ever. An hour later, Carla was at the police station. "I need to speak to someone about the boy on the news," she said urgently. The officer at the desk looked confused. "Do you know him?" "Yes, that's my son. His name is Jacob Rivers. He was kidnapped 3 years ago." The officer frowned. "Ma'am, are you sure? That boy's in temporary foster care now. He said he doesn't know his real last name." "I'm telling you," Carla said, shaking. "I'm his mother. I can prove it." She handed over old hospital records, a birth certificate, and a police report from 3 years ago. The officer looked over the papers, then disappeared into a back room. Carla waited in silence, hands clenched. She didn't want to hope too much. But this was her chance. Her only chance. After an hour, a detective came out and sat beside her. "Miss Rivers," he said gently, "we'll need to do a DNA test to confirm anything." But the boy did say his real mom was someone named Carla. Carla gasped. She covered her mouth. Tears spilled again. "Can I see him?" she asked. The detective shook his head. "Not yet. The courts have to approve. But we're moving fast now." Later that day, Carla stood outside the foster care center where Jacob was staying. She wasn't allowed inside. But she stood there anyway, just hoping for a glimpse. She saw movement near the window. A small face. A little boy looking out. Their eyes met, just for a second. Carla smiled through her tears. She didn't know if he recognized her, but she knew. That was her son, and no one could take him away again. Inside the foster care center, Jacob sat on his bed, holding a small stuffed bear. It had no fur on one ear. He didn't know where it came from. The woman who took him said it was his favorite toy, but he never felt connected to it. Until now. Suddenly, the bear smelled familiar. It reminded him of a warm hug, a soft voice, someone singing to him at night. His heart ached. Was it possible? Had someone out there really been waiting for him? He whispered to the bear, "Mommy." Back at her tiny apartment, Carla lit a candle and sat on the floor. She pulled out her journal and wrote, "Today I saw my son again. I thought this day would never come. But I'm not giving up now. He is mine, and I'll fight for him, no matter what." The woman sat alone in the cold, gray interview room. Her name, as shown on her ID, was Linda Parks. She looked calm, but her hands kept shaking. Detective Harris walked in and placed a file on the table. "Linda," he said slowly, "we need to ask you a few more questions. Please be honest." Linda gave a weak smile. "Of course. I already told you. The boy is my nephew. His name is Eli. His mother, my sister, passed away. I've been raising him ever since." The detective opened the file. "That's what you said. But we checked. You don't have a sister." Linda's smile faded. She looked down at her hands. "I meant a close friend. She was like a sister to me," she said quickly. "When she died, I promised to care for her son." Detective Harris raised an eyebrow. "Then why do you have no records of his birth? No legal adoption papers?" Linda paused. Her voice became quiet. "He was abandoned. No one wanted him. I saved him. I gave him a home." "But he told us something very different, Linda," the detective said. "He told us his name is Jacob. He said you're not his real mom. And now, a woman named Carla has come forward. She says you took her son." Linda stood up quickly. "She's lying," she shouted. "She's sick. She's trying to take him from me." Two officers entered the room and asked her to calm down. Linda sat back, breathing heavily. "She'll ruin everything," she whispered. Meanwhile, Jacob sat quietly in the foster home, holding his teddy bear. A kind social worker named Ms. Bennett sat beside him. "Jacob," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" He nodded. "Do you remember anything about when you were younger, before you lived with Linda?" He looked at her, unsure. "Maybe someone's name, or a place." He thought for a moment, then whispered, "Carla." Ms. Bennett smiled gently. "Carla is here now. She said she's your real mom." Jacob blinked slowly. "I'd remember a voice," he said. "Soft, like singing. She sang to me." Ms. Bennett held his hand. "She misses you very much, and she wants to see you." At the police station, Carla waited nervously. Detective Harris met her in the hallway. "We spoke to the boy," he said. "He remembers your name. That's a good sign." Carla covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. "But," he continued, "Linda is denying everything. She's claiming you're mentally unwell and making this up." Carla shook her head. "She took my son. I'm not lying." "We believe you," he said calmly. "But we still need proof. The DNA test is moving forward. Until then, we're keeping Jacob safe." Carla looked through the window into the room where Jacob was sitting. He looked small, confused, but alive. She wanted to run in and hug him, but she knew she had to wait. That night, Linda sat alone in her apartment. The place was filled with photos of her and the boy, birthdays, trips, smiles. But something was wrong with every picture. The boy never smiled with his eyes, like something was always missing. She picked up a photo of them at the zoo. She whispered, "I gave you everything. Why don't you love me?" She slammed the photo down and cried. She had taken Jacob years ago from a busy park. She saw him playing alone, saw the tired woman on the phone, saw her chance. She didn't plan to hurt him. She just wanted a child. Her daughter had died from cancer at age 5. Linda's heart had broken, and she had made a terrible decision. The next day, the courtroom filled with quiet tension. Carla sat on one side, Linda on the other. Jacob was kept in a private room, too young to face the court. The judge read the case details. A boy, age 6, found in care of a woman with no legal ties. Another woman, Carla Rivers, claims he's her son, Jacob, kidnapped 3 years ago. Linda's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client raised this boy with love. She may not be the biological mother, but she's the only parent he knows." Carla stood. Her voice was steady. "Your Honor, I am Jacob's mother. He was taken from me. I never stopped searching. I have proof. Let the DNA test speak for us." The judge nodded. "Very well. The results will be ready in 24 hours. Until then, The boy remains in foster care. Outside the courtroom, reporters gathered. One whispered to another, "You think the boy really belongs to Carla?" The other said, "I saw the way she looked at him. A mother never forgets." Inside the foster home, Jacob looked out the window again. Far in the distance, he saw a woman standing behind a gate. He pressed his hand against the glass. "I think that's my mommy," he whispered. Miss Bennett smiled. The courtroom was silent. Carla sat on the edge of the bench, her hands gripping her knees, her heart beating like a drum. For the past 3 years, she had prayed for this moment. Now, everything came down to one sheet of paper: the DNA test results. The judge entered the courtroom, holding a sealed envelope. His face was unreadable. Linda was sitting just a few feet away, her arms crossed, lips tight. Her lawyer whispered something to her, but she didn't respond. Carla didn't even look at her. All she could think about was her son, Jacob. "Ladies and gentlemen," the judge said, adjusting his glasses, "the court has received the results of the DNA test between the minor child and Ms. Carla Rivers." He paused and slowly opened the envelope. Carla's breath caught in her throat. Linda's nails dug into her palm. The entire room leaned in. The judge read aloud, "According to the DNA analysis, there is a 99.9% match between Ms. Carla Rivers and the child referred to as Eli. The child is legally and biologically her son, Jacob Rivers." The courtroom gasped. Carla closed her eyes, tears pouring down her cheeks. It was real. It was true. Jacob was her son. And now, the world knew it. Linda stood up quickly. "No," she shouted. "That's not right. I raised him. He's mine." The judge banged his gavel. "Order in the court." Linda's lawyer tried to calm her, but she pushed him away. "You can't take him from me," she screamed. "I fed him. I taught him to read. I gave him everything." Carla stood too, her voice trembling but clear. "You stole him from me. You took 3 years of his life, 3 birthdays, 3 Christmases. You don't deserve to call yourself his mother." The judge signaled the officers to escort Linda out of the room. As they led her away, she kept shouting, "I'm the only mom he knows. He won't remember you." After court, Carla was taken to a private room inside the foster care center. Jacob was sitting quietly, holding his teddy bear. When he saw her walk in, he stared at her for a long time. Carla knelt down and opened her arms. "Jacob," she whispered, "it's Mommy." He looked at her, his small face unsure, eyes searching. Then, slowly, he stood up and walked into her arms. She held him tight, rocking him gently. "You came back," he whispered. Carla cried harder. "No, baby, you came back." That night, the story made headlines. Missing boy found after 3 years, taken by woman posing as mother. TV screens showed Carla and Jacob reunited, their photo warm and powerful. People online cheered for the mother's strength and the boy's bravery. But some still had questions. Why did Linda take him? Was there something deeper behind her actions? Back in a jail cell, Linda sat alone. Her hands trembled as she looked at a small photo she had hidden inside her wallet. It was her own daughter, Emily, the daughter she had lost to cancer. Linda had never recovered. When she saw Jacob alone that day at the park, something snapped in her mind. She thought she was saving him from loneliness. But deep down, she had tried to replace the child she lost by stealing someone else's. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm sorry, Emily," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt him. I just wanted you back." Meanwhile, Carla and Jacob sat on the couch at home. The lights were soft. A warm meal was on the table. Jacob looked around quietly. "Is this where I used to live?" "Yes," Carla smiled. "This was your room." She pointed to the door down the hall. Jacob walked into the room slowly. The walls were still painted blue, stars on the ceiling. His old books, his baby blanket on the bed. He sat down and picked up a small toy car. "I remember this," he said. Carla sat beside him. "You don't have to remember everything right now," she said gently. "We'll make new memories too." That night, Carla tucked him into bed. As she turned off the light, Jacob said softly, "Will you sing that song?" Carla froze. "What song?" He looked up at her. "The one about the moon." Her eyes widened. Carla smiled, her voice breaking with emotion. And then softly, she sang, "Good night, moon. Good night, sky. Mommy loves you. Don't you cry." Jacob closed his eyes, his hand holding hers. And for the first time in 3 years, they both slept in peace. The next morning, sunlight filled the quiet house. Carla stood in the kitchen, making pancakes, the kind Jacob used to love when he was small. She looked toward the hallway. Jacob's door was still closed. Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped a pancake. This was her first morning with her son, after 3 long years. But she didn't know if he would still feel like her son. Inside the room, Jacob sat on the edge of the bed. The blanket was soft. The room was clean, and his name was painted on the wall in blue letters, Jacob. But it didn't feel like home yet. He picked up a toy car from the shelf. It looked familiar, but the memories were foggy, like dreams. He remembered Linda's house, small, old, but full of routine. She packed his lunch every day. She gave him baths. She told him bedtime stories. But she had lied. She wasn't his real mom. Now, this kind woman said she was. He believed her. He felt it. But it still felt strange. Carla knocked gently on the door. "Sweetheart, can I come in?" Jacob nodded. She stepped in, carrying a plate of pancakes. "I made your favorite, remember, with chocolate chips." He looked at the plate, then looked at her, and slowly, he smiled. "Okay," he said quietly. "Thank you." Carla sat beside him and handed him the plate. He took a bite, and his eyes lit up. "I do remember this," he said with a mouthful. She laughed softly. "I'm glad." Later that day, Carla took Jacob to the park. It was the same park where he had disappeared 3 years ago. She was nervous, but she knew she had to face it. "This is where we used to come every Sunday," she told him. "You love the swings." Jacob looked around. The trees were bigger now, the grass greener, but something about the place made him feel calm. He ran to the swings without a word. Carla sat on a bench, watching him. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Back at home, Jacob sat on the couch, looking at a photo album. Carla sat beside him. "Who's this?" he asked, pointing to a photo. "That's your grandpa," she said. "He lives in Florida now. You used to call him Pop Pop." Jacob smiled. "And this one?" He pointed again. "That's your dad," Carla said quietly. Jacob's face changed. "Where is he?" Carla took a deep breath. "He passed away when you were very little. You were just 2. Jacob didn't say anything for a while. Then he whispered, "So it's just you and me." She nodded. "But we're enough, I promise." That night, Jacob had a nightmare. He screamed in his sleep, tossing and turning. Carla rushed in, held him close. "What is it, baby? What did you see?" He cried into her shoulder. "She was yelling at me, saying I'd forget you, saying you didn't love me." Carla's heart broke. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "That woman hurt you. She made you believe things that weren't true. But I'm your real mom. I've loved you every single day you were gone, and I'll never leave you." Jacob wiped his tears. "Promise, promise." The next day, Carla took Jacob to a child therapist. She wanted to help him heal. The therapist, Ms. Ray, sat with Jacob as he drew pictures. Carla watched through the glass window. Jacob was drawing a house, a woman, a boy, a son. "What's this?" Ms. Ray asked. "That's me," Jacob said, "and my mom. And that's our house." And how do you feel there? Jacob smiled. Safe. Carla wiped her tears quietly. It would take time, but he was coming back to her. Meanwhile, in jail, Linda sat across from her public defender. They're charging you with kidnapping, he said. You could face 10 to 15 years. Linda didn't react. She stared at the wall. He'll forget me, she said. The lawyer looked confused. You stole someone's child, Linda. This was never your right. She whispered, I loved him. I gave him everything. But you lied to him. She closed her eyes. And finally, she said nothing. Back at home, Carla tucked Jacob into bed. He held her hand tightly. Will you stay until I fall asleep? Of course, she said. As he closed his eyes, he whispered, I'm glad you found me. She kissed his forehead. I'll always find you. A week had passed. Carla and Jacob were slowly building their bond again. Day by day, trust was growing. Jacob laughed more. He asked more questions. He even started calling her Mom again, softly, but with love. But something still felt incomplete. Jacob was still curious. He was still confused. There were memories he couldn't erase, and people he couldn't forget. One of them was a woman named Miss Leela. Miss Leela had lived next door to Linda. She was an older lady, kind and quiet. Jacob remembered her clearly. She used to give him cookies and tell him bedtime stories when Linda was away. One afternoon, a social worker called Carla. There's someone asking to speak to you, the woman said. She says she knew Jacob when he was missing. Her name is Leela Harris. Carla's heart tightened. Why would someone connected to Linda want to meet her? But something inside her said, hear her out. Later that evening, Carla and Jacob waited at a cafe. Jacob looked nervous. Why does she want to see me? He asked. She said she was your neighbor before. Carla answered carefully. She might help us understand what happened. Jacob nodded slowly. The door opened. An elderly woman walked in, holding a small paper bag. She spotted them and smiled gently. Jacob, she said softly. Jacob looked at her for a moment. Then his face lit up. Miss Leela. He jumped off his seat and hugged her. Carla watched, surprised. Miss Leela held him tight. Oh, my sweet boy. I prayed for you every night. They sat down. Carla listened closely. Leila took Jacob's hand. You were such a good boy. I always knew something was wrong. Linda kept you hidden most of the time. She never let you play with the other kids. Jacob nodded slowly. She told me not to talk to strangers, he said. She told everyone you were her adopted son, but something didn't add up. You looked scared sometimes. Sad. Carla asked, why didn't you call the police? Leela looked down. I wish I had. I didn't know he was taken. I thought, maybe she adopted him without telling anyone. She pulled out the paper bag and handed it to Carla. I kept this. I think it belongs to him. Inside the bag was a small red shoe. Carla's hands trembled. This is his, she whispered. He was wearing these the day he went missing. Jacob looked at the shoe closely. I remember this. Carla fought back tears. You kept it all these years. Leela nodded. I always believed the truth would come out one day. That night, Carla put Jacob to bed and stared at the shoe on the table. It felt like a piece of the missing puzzle had been found. She knew now that Linda hadn't acted completely alone. Someone had to have helped her. Meanwhile, in jail, Linda sat in her cold cell. The walls felt smaller every day. A guard walked in. You have a visitor. Linda was surprised. When she entered the meeting room, she gasped. It was Leela. What are you doing here? Linda asked. Leela sat down, calm but serious. I saw Jacob today. Linda's face fell. He remembered me, Leela added, and he looked happy. Linda said nothing. Leela leaned closer. You lied to everyone. But most of all, you lied to that boy. I gave him love, Linda whispered. You gave him lies. There was silence. Then Leela said, if you care about him at all, tell the truth. All of it. The next day, Carla got a call from the police department. Linda wants to speak to you, the officer said. She says she's ready to tell everything. Carla's stomach turned. Was this another trick? Or would this finally be the full truth? That night, Jacob stood near the window, looking at the stars. Mom, he asked, was she always bad? Carla stood beside him. No, she said gently. She was broken, but hurting others doesn't fix pain. Jacob looked at her. I don't hate her. Carla smiled sadly. That makes you stronger than she ever was. The courtroom was quiet. Everyone waited for Linda to speak. She stood there, tired, pale, and weak. But this time, she wasn't angry. She wasn't hiding. She was ready to tell the truth. Carla sat in the front row. Jacob wasn't there. Carla had asked her friend to watch him. He didn't need to hear this. Linda looked straight ahead. Her eyes met the judge's. I want to confess, she said. The room held its breath. I didn't just find Jacob, Linda began. I planned it. Gasps filled the courtroom. Carla's heart sank. Her worst fear was true. I had just lost my baby, Linda continued, her voice shaking. A few months before, a little girl. She was stillborn. Tears ran down her face now. I couldn't take it. I broke. I couldn't breathe. I felt like my whole world ended. The judge watched quietly. He didn't stop her. Linda went on. I went to the park that day. I saw Carla playing with her son. He looked just like the baby I lost. Carla held her breath. Her fists were tight in her lap. I watched them for days. I saw how happy they were. And something inside me snapped. The courtroom was still. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, Linda said softly. I wanted to feel like a mother again, even if it was wrong. Carla's eyes filled with tears, but not just anger. There was pain. And maybe somewhere deep inside, a tiny bit of pity. The judge asked, and the lies, the papers, the new name. I faked them all, Linda said. I told people I adopted him. I moved to another town. I changed everything. The lawyer asked, did anyone help you? Linda paused. One person, a friend who worked at a clinic. She thought I was mentally unwell. She helped forge some papers, then disappeared. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty. The truth matters. Then he looked at Carla. Would you like to say something? Carla stood up. She looked at Linda, not with rage, but with sadness. You took everything from me, she said quietly. 3 years of memories. His first lost tooth. His first day at school. His little hugs at bedtime. You stole that. Linda looked down. But I'm not here to curse you, Carla continued. I just want my son to have peace, and he can't have it if we keep hating each other. The room went silent. Even Linda seemed shocked. Carla stepped closer. I forgive you. Linda began to cry. She wasn't expecting forgiveness. She had thought Carla would scream. But instead, Carla had let go of the weight. I don't forgive what you did, Carla added. But I forgive you. Because my son deserves a future. And I don't want hate in his heart. A few days later, Linda was officially sentenced. 12 years in prison for kidnapping, forgery, and child endangerment. There would be no early release. But she didn't fight the decision. She accepted it. Because for the first time, she had told the truth. Jacob visited the courtroom on the final day. He saw Linda one last time, through the glass. She smiled softly. I'm glad you're safe, she said. Jacob just nodded. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. Then he turned and walked away, with Carla holding his hand. He never looked back. 1 year later, Carla and Jacob sat in the park. It was spring. Flowers bloomed. Birds chirped. Laughter filled the air. Jacob held a photo in his hand. It was him and Carla, smiling in front of their home. "I'm happy now," he said. Carla smiled. "Me too." He looked at the photo again. "Do you think people can change?" Carla paused. "Yes, but they have to want to. And they have to tell the truth." Jacob nodded. Then he slipped the photo into his backpack. And together, they'd walked home, finally, truly, as a family.